I feel like when you're in corporate America, you're just making it through the 8 hours in the day or 10 or 12 or 14, depending on where you're working. Where today I feel like there is purpose. I don't count the hours of when I get to go home. I work until I'm ready to go home. But a lot of times you'll find yourself and it's dark out and you're just so passionate about what you're involved in and doing that it doesn't feel like work. I was told one day, if you find something that you love, you will never work a day in your life. And I feel that's what I found at StoneAge.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Reflect Forward. I'm your host, Kerry Siggins, and I'm so glad you are here today. Today, my guest is Mike Bollinger. He is the Director of Operations here at StoneAge. And I just thought it would be really fun for you all to hear what it's like working at an employee-owned company at StoneAge. You listen to me every week talk about what we're doing here, whether that's woven into an interview or in one of my Advice from a CEO episodes. And Mike is just a remarkable example of somebody who's grown so much with this organization and has developed into a tremendous leader. And I thought it would be fun for you to hear from somebody here who is in the trenches with me. So hang tight and I'll be right back with Mike. All right, everyone, welcome back. I have the one and only Mike Bollinger. I'm sure there's other Mike Bollingers in the world, but there is no other Mike Bollinger like this Mike Bollinger, like the Mike Bollinger, who is the Director of Operations here at StoneAge. And we wanted to give you an inside peek of what it's like to work here. So, Mike, thank you so much for joining me on the show today.
You're welcome.
Awesome. All right. So maybe tell a little bit about yourself and why you decided to come to StoneAge, like what, about a decade ago?
Yeah, almost 11 years now.
Yeah.
The story starts back coming out of college in 1990 at ASU. And I'll try to fast forward. I worked for a number of different companies, anywhere from the electronics and Honeywell to airbag manufacturing and automotive industry, which is very high paced, high stress, to a little bit more job shop, Rockford Fosgate. And I've owned a couple of businesses of my own, but really what led me to come to Durango, Colorado, and people are like, why do you want to go to a little town after you leave Phoenix? Well, long story short, I was born in Fort Collins, Colorado, and it wasn't because I wanted to come back to Colorado. I wanted to find a company that actually cared about their employees and where I could go make a difference in my everyday work and influence not only the company, but build the relationships that it takes to actually run a successful company. So I didn't choose the mountains. I chose the company, and I actually moved away from my family and everything I knew and all my friends that I'd known since I was 10 years old. So I gave up basically my core of my life because I knew that I wanted to work for a company that cared about their employees. And that's how I ended up at StoneAge.
And did you know of StoneAge before you started the process of searching for a new job? Or did you start to learn about StoneAge once you had your first interview?
Really, after I had my first interview, it was kind of funny. I told my wife, I said, I'm tired of working corporate America. And I took her to lunch, and there was this burrito called the Durango. And I actually ordered it. And I told her I'd put in for a job in Durango, Colorado. And that afternoon on our way home, I got a call for an interview. So I know that seems made up, but that is a true story. And I just told my wife I wanted to do something different. And I figured that in a small town, maybe there was that difference. Because when I did work for Rockford Fosgate, it was a family owned business. So I wanted to get back to that kind of core. But no, I didn't learn about StoneAge until I actually started interviewing.
Did you take a title cut and a pay cut to come here?
I did. I was a director of manufacturing at a company. And yes, I took a hefty pay cut and a title cut, which, if you know anything about me, it's not about the title. I really do not care about titles. I care about the impact and the relationships and that I can come to work every day and have fun. But yeah, it was financially not the smartest thing, but in the long run, it was the smartest thing that I've ever done.
And why is that?
I get to make a difference. I get to come to work. I get to have fun. I have relationships. I feel like I work with a group of employees, but not only that, it's an extension. We're all owners. It's not just what I add to the company, it's what we as a collective team do. And it doesn't feel like departmentalized and silos. It's about the business and the better good of the employees and the companies, and ultimately what we're doing and delivering for our customers to be safe in what they do in the industry.
So it sounds like you found maybe a little bit more purpose in your work when you came here. Would you say that's accurate?
Yes, very accurate. I feel like when you're in corporate America, you're just making it through the 8 hours in the day or 10 or 12 or 14, depending on where you're working. Where today I feel like there is purpose. I don't count the hours of when I get to go home. I work until I'm ready to go home. But a lot of times you'll find yourself and it's dark out and you're just so passionate about what you're involved in and doing that it doesn't feel like work. I was told one day, if you find something that you love, you will never work a day in your life. And I feel that's what I found as so much.
That's awesome. It makes me make me cry.
Long as
Uh,
I don't cry, we're good.
I don't think I've ever seen you cry in the 11 years I've worked with you.
No, I
I
don't
don't
think
think
so.
so. Well, my goal is to not make you cry unless it's tears of joy and happiness.
Exactly.
So you had several different positions. I think that's one of the really cool things about working at StoneAge is that we really try to help our employees get a lot of different experiences and try different things. So can you talk a little bit about what that experience is like that you've done lots of different roles in operations and you went into sales for a bit, now leading operations and continuing to grow and going to get a promotion soon and all of that fun stuff. So what has that been like with all the different types of roles you've held here?
At first, it was like, what do you mean you want to offer me an hourly position? Literally, I've been working in my career for a long time and held director roles, and they wanted to hire me hourly. And I couldn't understand. No, we need to negotiate salary. Well, if I would have known what I know now, I should have went with the hourly because I was putting on hours just trying to get up to speed. But I started an order fulfillment lead, I believe it was. I had 3 employees, 2 in shipping, 1 in receiving. I think a month later, I would still have the same role, but I took over inventory and had a whopping 9 employees at that point. And then I got an opportunity that KP gave me to go and run the sewer division from a sales standpoint. And that was to go travel Europe for a year and open up dealers. Our first trip was 19 days, 17 different hotel rooms in 7 countries. So yeah, we didn't start slow. It was very interesting. It was eye opening and I enjoyed it for a whole year. So I went into that role. I learned a lot about the company from a customer standpoint, which I really think helped frame me as a leader moving forward in the organization. I remember I'm getting ready to leave for Germany on my last trip. KP catches me. Hey, what do you think about coming back and running ops when you get done with this trip? So that was obviously something to think about for another 3 weeks. But then when I came back, we went direct and we opened up our branches. So I got an opportunity to go and physically find buildings and put racking in and build inventory and build a team around our North American branch offices. Cause at that point, we didn't have our global or our European branches stood up yet. So getting back to the roots of operations, but running all of operations and including branches was something new to me because it has that sales piece of it. But I think it fits nicely with starting in ops, getting the sales experience, then blending back into ops with branch operations. From there, we grew globally and we had our European locations in the Netherlands and the UK, and they were being ran by the one, the only Lower Ellis, which I like to call him. But Steve Ellis had the sales department and all the branches over there. Once we migrated that, it gave us a global chance to pull operations together as a whole. So again, growth. I had never ran operations in other countries. So I think by doing the sales bit and traveling, learning the cultures, then getting an opportunity to actually have employees in those regions was super cool. But it was all a progression of going from operations to sales and back that I think has really formed me as a leader and really given me the skill set to do what I do today.
I think your journey is such a good example of how careers are truly built. I think a lot of people think, oh, I'm going to climb the ladder. It's this step and this step and this step and this step. And in fact, I even had a conversation with one of our employees about that. Like, I want to know what my career path is. And my response to him was, get really good at your job and then take an opportunity to go do something different and get well-rounded experience. The more that you know about the company, the more you know about different roles, the more valuable that you're going to be. It's not like, oh, I'm going to be a XYZ and then go into an XYZ supervisor and then XYZ. I mean, some
Yeah.
people take that path, but I think getting that kind of different experience to really help you understand what your leadership skills are like, what you enjoy doing, how it helps the business grow. And that's what makes a great executive. So I love your example of how you were able to do different things and take on different roles and really be able to grow with the company as you added more value to our customers and to our team. So I just think it's a great example.
Yeah. I think one of the things was don't be afraid to say yes because sales, sewer, sure. I remember the conversation. Yeah, let's do this. And you're like, time out, go home and talk to your wife first. But I think it's being willing to put yourself out there, do something that stretches you beyond your comfort zone, which is not very comfortable. That's why they call it stretching beyond. But I do think that if you do that, that will open up opportunities. But it says a lot about the company and being able to take those chances, hopefully have success, but also have some failures. And then to learn from those failures and then learn where your skill sets actually align better. Yes, could I have maybe stayed in sales? Yes, it would have been a stretch. It would have been work. But really, where my skills landed is in operations, and that's where they should.
Yeah. I think what's really good about it is a lot of ops leaders, there's an inherent conflict tension between sales and
Uh-huh.
ops. And that tension can be healthy or it can be unhealthy. But I think you having that understanding of what our customers go through, how we really do make their lives easier when we deliver on the Stone Age Assurance promise to make sure that they go home safely to their families and to make sure that they can do their jobs on time. It helps you care more about why you're doing the job that you're doing. And I think that's really important. Like you need to be connected to that greater purpose of the company. And that experience gave you a little bit of a taste of that. I think it helped you be able to bring that back to the rest of your ops team.
I agree. Understanding what sales is going through kind of puts it in perspective.
Definitely. Okay, so let's talk about your leadership and how your leadership style has changed since working at Stone Age. What were you like before you came here? What were some of the missteps that you had? And how would you describe your leadership style now?
I would say I was probably a typical leader that would overreact to things, would get emotional, would let the stress level be seen amongst my team. I was a gas pedal, full down, no brake, wake of bodies behind me, getting shit done. But I think you coined Bollinger in a China shop. And that was me. But I was getting stuff done. And in a lot of companies, that is how you get rewarded and you get promoted. It's not about the wake of bodies you leave behind you. It's what are you getting done? So I think learning that this company was different and it cared about the employees and knowing when to slow down and how to slow down and not only slow down, but bring the people along for the journey, knowing that the time spent upfront explaining the why, doing the change management actually would allow you to move faster going forward than just running through walls. Because if you're running through the wall by yourself, but you're not bringing the rest of the team along, you're not going to be successful. Today, cool, calm, collect. There's nothing that really gets me too wound up. It's just not worth it in the grand scheme of things. You still have the same problem, still have the same issue, same opportunity you got to go solve, but you can be seen as a cool, calm, collective leader, or you can be seen as Bollinger in a China shop. Which leader do you want to follow?
Yeah.
And it really came to that. And a lot of it's through the coaching that I've gotten through Stone Age. A lot of it's due to UKP, just spending time investing in us as leaders. And if I am wound up, I know when I'm in a low level of health and I just don't interact in those situations. There's times where you don't have to have a conversation. You can choose to pause, walk away, catch your breath, come back in a better level of health.
I think that's really important. A lot of leaders look at this first layer of how do people experience me as a leader and cool, calm, and collected, or a Bollinger in a China shop, or as the feedback that I once got, erratic. And that's important. That's an important piece of leadership. But to take it really to the next level, it's how do people experience themselves under your leadership? And I think that's a really important transition that leaders have to make, and one that I think that you've done an excellent job of, because you've built such a strong team here at StoneAge, is that you want people to be their best version of themselves. How do they step up to the opportunity? How do they say yes to those challenges rather than back away from it because of fear of failure? And I think that's a really remarkable thing that you've done, and how I've watched you grow over the last 10 years is that before was get shit done, and how people experienced you as a Bollinger in a china shop. And then as you matured and really developed your leadership style, people experienced you differently. But now people are experiencing real growth within your organization. And I think that's an important thing, is they're looking at how do I experience myself under Mike's leadership. And so I think it's a really cool thing. And
I
it's one
appreciate
of the
that.
things I admire about you. Yeah.
Yeah, and I gotta say, I did do a joint coaching session with one of my managers that we weren't seeing eye to eye,
Yeah.
and it was kind of game changing for some of my management style. Is the individual wanted intent and then wanted me to get out of the way, and we had a hard conversation of, "You don't always hit your dates, so it's hard for me to give intent and step back." I
Yeah.
said, "But I'm gonna trust that you can do it, and your job is to check in with me and if you need guidance," and it worked. And me and the manager, Ron Thompson, I'll say who it is.
Mhm.
We have such a better relationship because of it. He was just recently promoted to a senior manager. He has grown and he's helped me grow.
Yeah.
And it's a known thing in my group. If you want to know how to manage Mike, go see Chrissy Walsh, another one of my senior managers. But part of it is, how do I provide them the leadership, but also give them the comfort level to where they can push back and manage me?
Yeah.
Because part of it is just being real, humble, having a good relationship with people, being motivated, being engaged in building a true relationship, not a surface level. But I really do believe the success that I've been able to have is due to that relationship building piece
Yeah.
of it and building trust within the organization,
Yeah.
which I didn't have at the beginning.
Yeah. You have to
You
earn
know,
it, right? You have to earn it. You gotta come in and figure out how to fit into this messy ownership culture that we have. It's super fun, but not always easy.
yes,
Uh,
exactly.
I think feedback's another piece of it. You are one of the easiest people to give feedback to. I think you really consider it, you handle it well, you take action. And obviously, the story that you just told about Ron giving you feedback and really being able to turn the relationship around because of modifications that you made based on the feedback that he gave you and the modifications that he made based on the feedback you gave him. But have you always been easy to give feedback to? What does your relationship with feedback look like? And how do you get good at receiving feedback?
No, I was terrible at it, like everybody is. If anybody's going to say, "Oh, I'm just great at feedback and it just comes natural," no, I would call bullshit on that because I don't believe that. I do think some people are inherently better at it. I had to work at it. It's the coaching and the sessions we've done with Radical Candor here at StoneAge. But even then, you've got to believe in it and you've got to believe in the greater good. And I think that's what the Own It mindset is about. It's what this culture is about. It is not about me. It is not about operations. It is about StoneAge and our customers. And once you realize it's about all the other owners and leave the I out of it and put the we into it, all of a sudden feedback isn't so bad. And I think that's one of the key things. If
Yeah.
you always are expecting that people are coming and giving you feedback because they care and they have good intentions, then feedback's easy.
Yep.
But if you put up that wall, like we all do at times, you don't hear it. And it's
Yeah.
not always easy to hear. You know me. I hear feedback. I'll usually kick shit out of myself for about a day.
Mhm.
And then I'll have a plan on how to address it and change the way that I'm either doing something or the way my team is doing something and modify based on that feedback. And I think we all have our different processes on how we do that. But short answer, no, it was not always easy. It is something that has been learned. And I didn't learn it until I came to Stone Age.
Yeah. Yeah. I told the story in the book of when it was during COVID, we're working from home and I'm out for a walk, and I know you're at your home office, and Mike is trying to get me to give my opinion on something. And it's just like this awkward conversation as he's trying to draw out my opinion. And I was like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "Well, I'm practicing my coaching. I always want to jump in and solve the problems." And Barb, who works for us, I've talked about her on the show before, she says, "You need to let other people solve the problems." And I was like, "Well, that's great. You should totally do that with your team. But I'm not gonna solve your problem for you. Just tell me what you want,
Right.
or I'll help you, or I'll tell you, like, no, that's not a good idea." And you're like, "Oh my god, thank God." Anyway, we had this big laugh about it, but I believe that was one of those pivotal moments in our relationship. We always had a good relationship, but just being able to have that conversation of like, "Mike, I really appreciate the work that you're doing. And yeah, you're right. You do need to let your team figure out how to solve their own problems rather than just jumping in and doing that. But here's how I need you to work with me. And here's how I'm here to help support you." It built our relationship being able to have that very candid conversation. And a lot of people think, "Oh, if I give feedback, I'm gonna damage the relationship." And, in my experience, for the most part, that's simply not true. Sometimes it is, but for the most part, it's not.
Right.
So, what was that experience like for you?
Well, it was awkward at first. I'm walking around. I remember exactly where I was at. I was out front trying to get my body moving instead of sitting in a chair.
Uh,
And I think the turning point for me was when you said, just tell me what you don't want.
yeah. Yeah.
You said, let it fly. And I'm like, well, I'm afraid if I let it fly too much, I may not have a job. And you said, nope, safe space. And it was that day that I told you exactly what I did not
Yeah.
want. And it was around continuous improvement.
Yeah.
And you got it and you supported it. Fine, we can work with that. And to me, it is easier to tell people what you don't want than what you do want.
Mhm.
So I've been trying to use that because it was a pivotal moment. And I do think that our relationship was great, but it was so much better after that.
Mhm.
I feel like there were no weird, awkward moments. I could say anything to you. You could say anything to me. And we knew that we were both coming with good intentions, no matter what the subject was.
Yep.
So,
Yeah, that's a pretty remarkable thing to be able to have that kind of relationship, and I don't think a lot of people have that relationship with their bosses, and that's what we do try to create here at Stone Age at every level, not just with me and the executive team. Like, how does that trickle down to every single leader and manager in this company? How do we create those safe spaces that people can just have a very real conversation? Because that's it. Like, we're all humans. Our
yeah,
titles are just letters behind our names. Like, we're all just human beings trying to figure it out, right? And none of
right.
us know very much. And we're learning and we're evolving and we stumble, and that's what life is about. And we build up these scenarios like, I can't be honest with my boss. And certainly there have been cases where people get punished for being honest, but that is 100% not how we want to run this company. Right? We
Right.
want to make it that safe space that you can have these very real conversations about what you want or what you don't want.
Yeah. I think just being real and
Yeah.
realizing life is messy and people are messy. And we're just trying to figure this thing called life out. And
Yeah.
nobody's got it figured out, by the way. If they say they do, they're wrong. So realize that we're all going on the journey together and we're at different
Yeah.
stages. And I think one of the other things is don't ever assume you know what someone's going through outside of work because we love to say, don't bring your stuff outside of work. Well, we're people and there are real things going on outside of work. So I think just being mindful, giving people a hall pass at times when they need one. Not everybody's going to show up great to work every day. And what you can do is try to help that person have a better day. And that's one of the things I love about the company. Is it perfect all the time? No, no place is perfect all the time. But I do feel like there are people every day trying to make sure this is the best place to work. I've told you before, I don't know how we get half the shit done around here. And I figured it out. It is the secret sauce and it's our people. The
Yeah.
thing that we have different is our people are different than any other company. That's why we are able to do things that we do.
I agree with you completely. So, kind of to wrap things up here, the own it mindset, this whole idea of ownership in a company. You've owned a couple of your own businesses, so you have a lot of ownership, and you always have, at least in my experience, and only developed the deeper ownership mentality as you've grown here at Stone Age. But what is that like for you? Like, you've spent your career in companies doing big things, important things, and then you came to this little tiny company in this little tiny town. And it's an employee owned company. How has that shaped your thinking on businesses and how it's run and how leaders should lead?
Yeah, I think back to my corporate America days where you just went in, you did your job full of stress. full of anxiety, full of watching your back, making sure you're not going to get stabbed. Always have your resume up to date because you never know when you're going to get whacked. And that went away. And I think it's really that own it mindset. And it's the fact that you can come in and make a difference. And people are authentic here. They're not just telling you something, it's the truth. They do care about you. But I think it's what John and Jerry did as founders. Take care of the customer and everything else will follow. And just that mindset to start and the evolution of how that's happened through the organization, and that we do care for people. When people get into accidents outside of here, we have done remarkable things for our employees that other companies wouldn't do. And to me, that speaks volumes that we take care of each other. And I know I'm probably going off a little bit on a tangent, but it's that real life kind of things that tells you this company gives it crap
Mhm.
about their employees
Mhm.
and really does care. And when you realize that you're a part of it, you're part of the success, the profits. I mean, profit sharing. Who does an ESOP and profit sharing? I don't think there's many companies out there.
No.
We share in the good and we share in the bad. We've been very fortunate, not a lot of bad and a lot of good. The fact that we have the ability to help mold this company, move it forward, and we share the rewards of success of StoneAge. Why wouldn't you want to own a part of that? There's not one person I don't think that works here hasn't dreamed about owning their own company at some point in time. You get to do that here with a little less risk.
Yep.
It's amazing. It's why I'm here. I'm
Mhm.
here for a few things. I love my boss and I love my teammates. My best, I'll call my best colleague friend is a sales guy. Ops and sales guys don't get along. And Mike and I get along so well. And I think the reason a lot of stuff works and that why we can lead the company in such a way that we do is because there is that relationship. There's relationships at every level of the EMT. And I think if you can build that, it just goes throughout the organization.
Yep.
So a lot of it for me, as I've said, is relationships. But I really enjoy the fact that we have the own it mindset and what that is like. It's not easy for new employees just to jump in and understand it. We had a game changing meeting in Canton this last week that I was there. We got an own it banner. We talked about what it really meant, and the light went on and they understood, holy crap, we were owners. We have a voice in what happens. And it took a year really to bring them along for that. This is real. It was super cool. It was very motivating.
Awesome. Mike, this has been so fantastic. Thank you so much for coming and sharing your experience. I thought it would be interesting for people to hear from somebody who's been here for 10 years, building this company alongside of me and the rest of our amazing employee owners, and just hear firsthand what it's like to live and breathe the own it mindset and to really develop as a leader with the intention and focus and sometimes pain that we go through. We're not just developing ourselves as better leaders, but ideally as better human beings.
I agree.
Awesome. Thanks for coming on. All right, hang tight, everybody. I'll be right back. All right, everyone. I hope you enjoyed that conversation and that sneak peek of what it's like here at StoneAge. Mike is such a great guy. So much fun working with him. With that, I will leave you to your week. If you like this podcast, please write a review, share it with a friend, subscribe to it on YouTube or on your favorite podcast platform. And if you are interested in knowing more about the ownership mindset and what this company is like, check out my book, The Ownership Mindset, because it is literally what the last 17 years of building this tremendous company has been like. And it is literally a handbook to really transform your own life and your leadership through the context of owning it. All right. Thanks, everyone. See you next week.